What's up, you guys? So, over the past few days, there's been a lot of conversation online that KeKe Palmer is not as big a star as she possibly could be based on her talent alone. She's an actress, a singer, a talk show host, and probably has other talents as well. But some people think that she's not as big a star as she could be because of colorism against darker-skinned women in the entertainment industry. People have been comparing KeKe Palmer's career to Zendaya's career, who is almost the same age as KeKe, but people say that Zendaya's had more mainstream success than KeKe Palmer. And now KeKe Palmer has finally responded to the comments. One of the tweets that sparked the debate in the comparisons between KeKe and Zendaya was this. Someone tweeted, "I'd like someone to do a deep dive on the similarities and differences between KeKe Palmer and Zendaya's careers. This may be one of the clearest examples of how colorism plays out in Hollywood. They were both child stars, but their mainstream popularity is very different." And I think it's the word mainstream which is triggering people, because obviously KeKe Palmer is super successful and super talented, but the fact that people say that she is not mainstream is what is debatable. There were over 1,000 responses to that one tweet, which may have been what prompted TMZ to actually cover the conversation that was going on about the two actresses on Twitter. TMZ reported, KeKe Palmer is getting the side-by-side treatment with Zendaya on Twitter after her starring role in Jordan Peele's new movie, sparking a conversation about colorism in Hollywood. Here's the deal. KeKe made a splash this weekend in Nope opposite Daniel Kaluuya, with some arguing that this is her breakout moment in the mainstream. Yes, she's worked in tons of movies/shows for years, but prior to this, she wasn't really a known household name generally. Jordan Peele's flick has put her on the map like she's never been before. I happen to disagree with the thought that KeKe Palmer is not mainstream. Anytime someone has hosted what is considered a mainstream morning talk show like Strahan, Sarah, and KeKe, then in my opinion, that person is clearly a mainstream entertainer. And when I say mainstream, I mean like crossover entertainer. KeKe Palmer is in that same crossover category, and that's why she was chosen to host the third hour of the national morning show, Good Morning America. And they literally added her as a co-host because she was so appealing to the American public, the general public. So I think anyone who's been cast as a host of a national morning talk show on network television can be considered crossover or mainstream. Anyway, this viral thread went on to say, they are two incredibly talented Virgo queens who each have an Emmy, but in different categories. KeKe Palmer has done so much throughout her career, yet people are saying Nope movie is her breakout role. Euphoria is what's considered Zendaya's breakout role, but that makes sense. And I do agree that it doesn't make sense to call Nope KeKe Palmer's breakout role, because clearly KeKe Palmer has been making headlines in the entertainment industry since she was a child with Akeelah and the Bee and her Nickelodeon show, and Nickelodeon is definitely considered mainstream. KeKe Palmer responded to the comparisons to Zendaya a few hours after TMZ covered the conversation. TMZ posted Sunday afternoon about the Twitter conversation, and by Sunday evening, KeKe Palmer had responded and said, "A great example of colorism is to believe I can be compared to anyone. I'm the youngest talk show host ever, the first Black woman to star in her own show on Nickelodeon, and the youngest and first Black Cinderella on Broadway. I'm an incomparable talent. Baby, this is KeKe Palmer, okay?" And she said, "I've been a leading lady since I was 11 years old. I have over 100 plus credits and currently starring in an original screenplay that's the #1 film at the box office. #Nope. I've had a blessed career thus far, and I couldn't ask for more, but God continues to surprise me." So what do y'all think about KeKe's comment saying that she's incomparable and listing a few of her historic accomplishments? Leave a comment with your opinion. I personally have mixed feelings about her statements because yes, she is very successful and she's earned all of the accolades and awards that she mentioned, and she shouldn't have to be compared to any other woman in the entertainment industry. But at the same time, I think she may purposely be denying that her career has not been affected by colorism in the entertainment industry by not directly addressing colorism and instead commenting only on her successes. This is something I've seen some women do before when people suggest they're not as successful as they could be because of colorism in the entertainment industry. Like when people question if Ari Lennox's song Pressure didn't have as many streams as Chloe Bailey's song Have Mercy. Ari Lennox denied colorism ever affecting her career and instead defended Chloe Bailey, who was not necessarily doing anything wrong. Someone tweeted, Chloe's new video has over 5 million views, while Ari Lennox, who has a better song and more tasteful video, hasn't even hit 1 million views yet. Chloe's light skin privilege is showing. Thank God she busted down. Now she has the attention she's been craving. And Ari tweeted back, please delete this hateful think piece. It's negative and counterproductive and creating unnecessary backlash for both Black women. Chloe and her music video are legendary and on repeat over here. Pressure is doing just fine. And then somebody else said, well, no, colorism is very real and harmful. We can support both artists and acknowledge that fact. And Ari said, but that's not what this is. Chloe worked incredibly hard and shouldn't be disrespected. She deserves her flowers. I will not tolerate this divisive stuff. And I just find it weird that it's obvious that colorism exists in the world as a whole, not just with Black people, but with people of other races and ethnicities as well. Colorism is well documented around the globe, but people feel like it's divisive to talk about it. People act like talking about colorism is just as bad as being colorist. And some women, like Zendaya, are able to discuss their light skin privilege, which is a result of colorism, but some other dark-skinned women don't have the same privilege of openly discussing how colorism may have affected their careers without them being labeled as victims. And it seems like that's what KeKe Palmer and Ari Lennox may be trying to avoid, that victim label. At last year's BeautyCon, Zendaya said, I am Hollywood's acceptable version of a Black girl, and that has to change. We're vastly too beautiful and too interesting for me to be the only representation of that. And that's great that Zendaya is willing to acknowledge and discuss having light skin privilege, but I just wish darker skinned women like KeKe or even Ari Lennox were given that space and that same grace to discuss how colorism may have affected their careers too. Because obviously, if some women benefit from having lighter skin, then other women with darker skin are at a disadvantage. That's obvious, and I think all women, all people need to have the space to discuss that. But leave a comment and let me know what you think. What do you think about KeKe Palmer's response and her not even mentioning colorism in her response? What do you think about what Zendaya had to say about having light skin privilege and not wanting to represent all of Black women? Leave a comment and let me know what you think about that. As always, thanks for watching.